Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take source materials you provide and really get under the skin of what they're actually telling us.
hmm
So today, for you, the learner, we have a pretty interesting pairing of sources.
Yeah, we do. First up, we've got excerpts from Goodreads for a novel by Elsie Davis. It's called Small Town Big Secrets, Book 2 in her Trinity River series, contemporary romance, small town setting.
Okay. And then the second piece.
That's an article also titled Small Town Big Secrets, funnily enough.
Mhm.
But this one's from Mystery and Suspense magazine.
Ah, okay.
And it's looking at, the rise of the rural conspiracy thriller, so a different genre entirely.
Right. So we've got this sweet romance, potentially, but with big secrets bubbling under the surface in this, like, close-knit town.
Mm.
And then you've got this article talking about how those same small towns are becoming these, well, really unsettling settings for conspiracy thrillers.
It's quite the contrast, isn't it?
It really is. It kind of makes you ask, what is it about small towns? These seemingly quiet, tight-knit places. What makes them such potent backdrops for secrets and drama, whether it's romantic or thrilling?
That's the big question, I think.
Okay, so let's try and unpack this. Let's start with the novel Elsie Davis's book. What's the basic setup? What's driving the story?
Well, the core of it is a character named Becky McAllister. She's a single mom, a waitress, and she's really devoted to her son, Byron.
Okay.
And Byron needs surgery, which costs money she doesn't have. So facing that difficulty, she agrees to a marriage of convenience.
Ah, the classic trope. Who's the other party?
He's Steve Parker, a local lawyer.
Yeah.
And for Becky, it seems pretty straightforward based on the reviews. It's just this fierce love for her son and the desperate need to get him that surgery. That's her focus.
Makes sense. And for Steve,
Okay.
it's just political ambition.
Well, that's definitely part of it, the campaign angle.
Hmm.
But the reviews also suggest there's maybe something more, like a genuine desire to make a difference as DA. Be an advocate for people who don't always have one.
Interesting. Okay, and the title promises big secrets. What's the main one here?
Ah, yes. The reviews make a big deal out of this. Becky's holding on to a really significant secret about Byron's father.
Okay.
And here's the twist, the real kicker. Steve, the guy she's marrying for convenience, he's actually the brother of Byron's biological father.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's definitely a big secret for a small town.
Huge. And it immediately ramps up the tension, right? Because in that kind of interconnected community, something like that could just explode. It really speaks to how tangled lives can get in those settings.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned the marriage of convenience trope. How did the reviewers feel it was handled? Because, sometimes that can feel a bit forced, especially in contemporary settings.
That's actually something one reviewer specifically mentioned. They said, look, normally this trope doesn't work for me in contemporary romance. I associate it more with historicals. But
This time it did.
yeah, this time it apparently worked really well for them. The general feeling seems to be that the relationship between Becky and Steve felt quite genuine. It built from friendship first.
Hmm. Maybe the small town setting helps sell it. The pressure, the need for appearances.
Could be that plausibility factor. Maybe it's heightened when everyone's watching. And the reviews definitely talked a lot about the setting itself.
Oh, yeah. What did they say about the small town aspect?
They really emphasize it. Readers felt like immersed in that atmosphere.
Like they were there.
Sort of, yeah.
Oh.
And this recurring idea came up. Neighbors look out for each other. There's that supportive side.
Right, the wholesome image.
But at the same time, there's this feeling that everybody thinks they know your business, that you're always being watched, even if people don't actually have the full story.
Mm.
That lack of anonymity, it becomes like part of the story itself.
Yeah, that fishbowl effect. And with a title like Small Town, Big Secrets, I assume the secretiveness was a major theme.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Several reviews pointed straight at Becky's secret as the main source of tension. And, the challenge of keeping something that big under wraps when everyone's connected, that's key.
It sounds difficult.
Well, one reviewer put it nicely. They said something like, it's not easy to keep secrets in a small town,
Yeah.
but it is possible.
Mm.
And that just, creates that immediate hook. How? How is she managing it? And for how long?
Right, right. So overall, sounds like people generally like the romance side of things.
Yes, the reception seems mostly positive. Words like sweet, clean, wholesome kept coming up. And people really seemed to love the character of the son, Byron. He was mentioned quite a bit as being endearing. And the author's skill in painting that small-town picture was praised too. Sounds like a comforting read for many.
But not universally loved. Any criticisms pop up?
Yeah, there were a few dissenting voices, which is normal. Some found parts of the plot a bit predictable.
Yeah.
Others felt maybe some characters weren't fully fleshed out, a bit one-dimensional perhaps. One reviewer questioned the whole premise, actually, like, would you really need a wife just to win a DA election in a big city like Houston? They felt that stretched things a bit.
Okay. A logic critique.
Yeah. And someone else mentioned maybe some loose ends with side plots, and another found a sudden change in Steve's family's attitude near the end a little hard to buy. So, the usual range of opinions.
Good to have that balance. And just a practical note for you. The Learner, it sounds like, even though it's book 2, people felt it worked fine as a standalone.
That's what the reviews suggested, yeah. You don't necessarily need to have read book 1.
Okay, cool. So that's the romance angle on Small Town Big Secrets. Now let's totally shift gears and dive into that magazine article. This one's looking at the thriller side of things, right? The darker side of small towns.
Exactly. It's arguing that this specific subgenre, the rural conspiracy thriller, has become, well, really popular, like a dominant force in crime fiction lately.
Interesting. A shift away from cities.
That's the argument, a definite move from urban grime to rural secrets as the main setting for suspense.
So what does this genre look like, according to the article? What are its key ingredients?
It paints a pretty specific, often quite chilling picture. It talks about shotgun towns, places with this undercurrent of potential violence just simmering there.
Right.
You've got characters like the waitress who seems innocent but sees everything, or the sheriff who smiles a lot but maybe doesn't quite reach his eyes.
Unsettling.
And this pervasive silence. Not peaceful silence, but like a loaded quiet. The article really stresses that in these stories, the town isn't just a backdrop. It's often the problem itself, the source of the conspiracy, the thing that's actually dangerous.
Wow. So the whole community can be rotten.
In a way, yeah. It's about that breakdown of trust in the very place you're supposed to feel safe.
Does the article mention any specific examples, books, or shows?
It does. It points to things like Mayor of Easttown on TV, where all those old family ties and secrets just weigh everything down.
Yeah, I remember that. Very atmospheric.
Exactly. And the movie Wind River, where the harsh landscape sort of reflects the hidden darkness in the community. It also mentions authors like C.J. Box, Attica Locke, with Bluebird, Jane Harper, and The Dry.
So big names. What kind of themes come up in their work, according to the article?
Things like long-buried family secrets, obviously. Environmental issues being used to cover up crimes, corruption in local power structures, the heavy weight of history, and this intense pressure within the community to just keep quiet about certain things.
Secrets and silence again. The article also mentions a feeling these thrillers create.
Yeah, claustrophobia. But it's a different kind of claustrophobia than in the romance, maybe.
How so?
It's not the everyone knows you feeling. It's more like the dangerous version. Everyone knows everyone, and they're all lying.
Ooh, that's chilling.
Right. It creates this really suffocating feeling of mistrust. You just don't know who's telling the truth, where the real danger is coming from. It could be anywhere, anyone.
So why are these stories so popular now? What's the appeal of these darker takes on rural life? Did the article offer any theories?
It suggested a couple of things. One is just that inherent tension, between the picture-perfect, idyllic image we often have of the countryside.
Right, the peaceful escape.
Yeah. And the possibility of something really sinister hiding just beneath that surface. That contrast is compelling.
And the other reason?
Possibly. It taps into a sort of growing skepticism, maybe, about local institutions, local authorities, especially when they seem all friendly and trustworthy on the outside. These thrillers kind of play on that doubt, that unease.
As a place that should be your safe haven.
Becomes the threat.
Yeah.
That's the core tension, the real unsettling power of this genre. When the community itself, the thing you should rely on, is actually the source of the danger.
Wow.
The article ends with this really striking image. It says something like, the devil parks his truck outside the VFW and nods when you walk by.
That perfectly captures it, doesn't it? Danger hiding in plain sight, just part of the everyday scenery.
Yeah, it really sticks with you, that normalization of threat within the familiar.
Okay, so we've looked at the romance novel and the thriller article, both talking about small town big secrets, but in such different ways. Bringing them together now for you, the learner, what are the main connections we can draw?
Well, what's really fascinating, I think, is how both sources, despite the totally different genres and aims, really highlight small towns as these, pressure cookers for secrets and high-stakes personal stuff.
Yeah, whether it's a hidden baby daddy in the romance.
Right, or a full-blown conspiracy in the thriller, that
Uh-huh.
intimacy, that interconnectedness everyone talks about, it just seems to amplify the impact of whatever's being hidden. There's nowhere to really hide.
It's true. Actions have bigger ripples, maybe, because everyone knows everyone else.
Exactly. And that closeness, it's such a double-edged sword, isn't it?
How do you mean?
Well, it can lead to that warmth and support the romance readers liked, neighbors looking out for their own.
Right.
But, as the thriller article points out, that same closeness can also breed suspicion, hidden conflicts, cover-ups, even real danger.
Yeah, the intimacy works both ways.
Definitely. And think about reputation, too.
Ah, yeah. Big deal in small towns.
Huge. One of the romance reviews mentioned how hard it is to overcome a bad reputation there. And you see that dynamic in the thrillers, too, but maybe with darker results. The community might protect its own, right? Even if its own have done something terrible. Protecting the town's image or specific people, sometimes at any cost.
That raises some uncomfortable questions about who gets protected and why.
For sure.
And it makes me think, could the big secret in the romance novel, if it came out messy, actually push that story towards maybe not full thriller, but definitely more suspense? Given how judgmental or gossipy small towns can sometimes be, even in the sweet portrayals.
That's a really interesting thought, yeah. In a place where everyone feels entitled to know your business or thinks they do.
Right.
The line between a personal secret, like in the romance, and a secret that could have much bigger, maybe even dangerous consequences for people.
Mm-hmm.
That line could get blurry really fast.
Yeah.
The stakes just feel automatically higher because of all those connections.
Okay, so wrapping this deep dive up for you, the learner, what are the main things to take away here?
I think the big takeaway is that small towns, whether you're reading a romance or a thriller, are just incredibly fertile ground for stories about secrets, complex relationships, and really high stakes.
Yeah.
That very intimacy, the fact that everyone is connected, it can be a source of comfort like we saw in the romance reviews, but it can also be the very thing that fuels drama, conflict, and secrets, like in the thrillers. It's that double nature that makes them so compelling, I think.
It really does give you something to think about. So a final thought for you to consider. Taking these insights, what other kinds of communities, maybe ones that seem quiet or close-knit on the surface in fiction or even just in the world around us, might be hiding their own big secrets? And maybe, why are we so drawn to these stories, these tales of hidden truths tucked away in places we think we know?
Good questions to ponder.
Indeed. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive.